Welcome to the payroll setup lesson number 7 on setting up banks in the payroll program. As you come into the payroll program, the banks tab should be open, or go ahead and click it open if it's not already. When we send the system out, we do send it out with one record in the banks tab called Anytown Bank. Now you can double click on that to change the information in that to reflect your actual bank information. Plus you can add other banks in here as well. But let's double click on the Anytown Bank so that the record information is brought down to the entry edit fields below the screen. The first thing you want to do is make sure that the bank is active, so make sure that there's a check mark in there. You can either click a check mark in there or hit your space bar to toggle one in and out of there. As you press enter, the company direct deposit account checkbox becomes active. So if you anticipate down the road that you're going to be setting up direct deposit in here, do toggle a check mark in that checkbox as well. Pressing enter, I'm brought down to the bank where you can override the bank name. So this could be US Bank, and pressing enter through the fields, enter and override the address, state, zip code. Any of this information can be overridden. I'm just pressing enter through these fields. Now at the upper right where it says account type, obviously if this is a checking account, you can leave the checking default there. Later on, as you enter more banks, you might have savings accounts that you might be switching money in and out of, especially in relation to direct deposit. So you can select what type of an account you are setting up in here. As I press enter, I'm brought down to the account number for the checking account or whatever bank account I'm setting up. So you can enter that in the account number field. Pressing enter, I get to the start date. We don't really do much with the start date, but it is a visual indicator to you when you started this checking account, if that's important to you. As I press enter, I'm brought down to the Federal Reserve number, and this is important for your direct deposit. So if you are planning on using direct deposit, you'll want your Federal Reserve number in there. Also, the routing number is also very important for direct deposit. So some of these fields you will not be able to get by without entering something in there. So you do want to make sure that you have all of the main fields filled in here. As I press enter through here, there's other information you can put in here, but as you can see, as I press enter through them, if they are not required fields, I do not have to have information in them. Lastly, because you can have several different cash accounts in your chart of accounts, you can relate this bank to its particular cash account by selecting it from the drop down. And as you press enter, you are prompted to save the information. You can just press enter with the yes highlighted, and it will resave the information and redisplay it above. Now, just kind of a note about banks. That's all you really need to do if you don't plan on doing any direct deposit. As you'll see later on in the direct deposit setup lesson, what you first need to do is set up all the different banks that you're dealing with regards to direct deposit. So if you have 3 or 4 banks in your local area that your direct deposit is going to be filtering to, you need to set those banks up in this tab anyway. The difference would be that any direct deposit bank, first of all, you want to make sure that this is not, the company direct deposit account is not checked for any banks other than the normal company bank that all the payroll money is going to come out of. So as you're setting up banks for direct deposit, you can set them up in here, and obviously you will be forced to enter an account in here, but that can be overridden later when that bank is actually attached to each employee who will have direct deposit. So even though you're forced to enter something here, again, that can be overwritten later. The important things, though, are like the Federal Reserve number, the routing number for each of those banks. So I can save all of my banks in here, but just making sure that the very first one or your company one is the only one that has a Y in the direct deposit. This ends the lesson on setting up banks in the payroll program.